This is a book review of the epic collection The Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 2, years 1964 to 1966, and includes The Amazing Spider-Man 18 to 38 and Annual 2. And this runs through all the way to the end of the Steve Ditko period. So some classic stuff. Of course, all the other Steve Ditko was in Volume 1. So what's in the Steve Ditko? Some brilliant story as Spider-Man. It is totally Steve Ditko. I love Steve Ditko's art, and this is just brilliant, brilliant book. I've got the Omnibus Edition as well. I know, pretty, just weird way of doing it, but I bought these first, and then I bought the Omnibus Edition later, when it became more readily affordable. So I'm just going to run through this. And what the story is like, say, November 1964 all the way through to 1966. Now, this book came out in 2016 from Marvel Comics. And the first story, The End. It's a good start. The End of Spider-Man. Brilliant story. You've got Jonah Jameson. Jonah Jameson, I should say. No less. Great character. And you got some brilliant bits with all the various villains. And then you got, of course, lots of the heroes. Daredevil, the Avengers, Fantastic Four, etc. And you got, obviously, Peter Parker doing all his usual things. I love that when someone... You've washed up, someone blows smoke into his face, as you do. Even the gangs, I mean, sort of, because of Aunt May. I really was never a fan of Aunt May. She just, but I guess it made the stories, but it just, to me, I would have listened personally, get rid of Aunt May. I don't know if people were thinking that at the time. Certainly were. Actually, I did enjoy recently, I was reading Speedball, which is a similar, very, very similar one, and really worth checking out, Speedball, from Steve Ditko. And that was 1988. And that's got a mum and dad who don't know he's Speedball, of course, but which is, I think, was much better. Somehow May just, she was always, I've got to go back, rush back. I suppose it was problems, but Superman never had those problems. Probably I must go back to save the Kents. Anyway, Spider-Man, meet me, and he's got poor old Johnny Storm, sadly forlorn, waiting. But it's a really great story. This is a brilliant. At this point, I mean, this was issue 18. To do a story basically where you've got no real Spidey action was quite unusual. You even got him like quivering in fear with various characters. So it's a great yarn. Then Spidey Strikes Back, and that's issue 19. Got a great one. Of course, the Enforcers, and also Sandman. There's quite a lot of great action here. I love the Enforcers are brilliant with the Ox, etc. And Sandman. I'm not surprised they've never teamed up ever again. Well, Sandman went on to better, greater and bigger things with the Frightful Four. CDFCO also, I mean, I just love. I mean, it's really, I mean, 9 panels to a page. It's quite. Some of these were quite and very wordy. Lots of modern comics are not like that. Got the Scorpion. Now, Scorpion was a great character because J. Jonah Jameson was the instigator of the Scorpion, and he's looking worried. I can't blame him. Oh, a complete lunatic. Let's give this guy some real amazing powers. As you do. Why is he running a newspaper considering how bad he is? Some of these things. The Human Torch. Brilliant here. The Beetle. The Beetle was a Human Torch villain, initially anyway, appeared in there. There's just great scenes with old Peter Parker and Johnny Storm. Just great. Crushes the rocks afterwards. Just great. Pin-ups. I loved the pin-ups back then. There was great stories with pin-ups. Always put pin-ups. They should do that more now. The Clown, the Masters of Menace. Old Ringmaster. Good old, he won't be around very long. Oh, well, he appeared earlier, of course, it was a Daredevil story. And Ringmaster, he's had quite a checkered career. He's turned up quite a bit. I don't know if he's still regular. I haven't seen him recently. Maybe he's retired. Hung up his hat. Goblin and the Gangsters. Is it gangs? Yeah. Great story. Green Goblin. I love the Green Goblin. Great character. Another Marvel masterwork. Spider-Man Goes Mad. Another story that, in a sense, similar where the end of Spider-Man. You got this one where it's not really anyone. He's not really facing anyone. But it's just, again, lots of these 9-panel pages. A lot of story was being crammed in here. In which nowadays you'd have like a massive one, double-page spread with very little. I mean, obviously, lots of... But here they just really, they were dense stories. But I guess, of course, nowadays, of course, the story spread over 400 comics. So that story would have been, obviously, the madness of Spider-Man. They would have had it over about 10 at least comics. Just did one. That was it. Bang. Captured by J. Jonah Jameson, because we had the robot. I love that robot. Sturdy Stevie Ditko. From Jonah Jameson, get me. The Man in the Crime Master mask. Crime Master, that was a good character. Of course, Frederick Foswell. They had a great cast. This was the thing about Spider-Man. Great cast of characters. Many other series didn't really have that range of characters. You have Flash Thompson, Liz, and so on and so on. Loads of people with the Bugle as well. But really, when you look back and think, well, the Avengers didn't really have you had Jarvis, but that was it. But Ditko really crammed in. The artwork is amazing. Brilliant story. Wrote Molten Man. Love the Molten Man. He doesn't turn up much. Wondrous World of Doctor Strange. This was a really odd combination, obviously combining two Steve Ditko stories. But great. Absolutely brilliant. I love those annuals anyway. Annuals were amazing. Brilliant annual. Scorpion again. For some weird reason, this one is always a baffling one. Marvel Pop Art Productions. We never got this in the UK. Just didn't turn up in the UK magazine. We had the Spider-Man Weekly. And this story, for some weird reason, and I couldn't, to this day, I cannot understand why that story never appeared. Yeah. But just great bits. You've got the cat, and you've got just loads of this. If This Be My Destiny, and of course you've got Gwen turns up in the story, and Harry, introducing yet more brilliant characters, and of course then you've got Mary Jane turns up later. So it's a little bit later, but you've got that Mary Jane story. The final chapter where you've got Doc Ock. I mean, that is just one of the classics. The cover, this is number 33, with him crunched under all that metal on top of him. I mean, that is staying. I failed, he says, blah, blah, blah. Plot and illustration, Steve Ditko. Just brilliantly forced. This is spread over just 5-6 pages of just classic Ditko. And then not only that, he's got to battle Doc Ock afterwards. Brilliant. And you got Betty Brown sort of falling apart. I mean, these stories are just great. You got Craven. Craven turns up here. You got Craven, Molten Man again, the Looter. Maybe not the world's greatest. I don't know if he ever turned up again. Might have done. I think he did. There was Marvel Team Up comes to mind, but you got Paul Gwen really does not like Peter Parker at this point. I loved Gwen character. Of course, turned up later, clones and everything else. Who knows? There's a book out recently that the Gwen Stacy one. Must get that. I think that's coming out very soon. So once you got to the end, you got to the end of Guy Named Joe. You got some extras at the back. You got some brilliant extras as well. This is something that I just think is pencil page, 10 pencils page, 11 pencils. This is of issue 31. And it's just beautiful to see old Ditko's layouts and pencil. If only all of them had been preserved in that way. I mean, that would be an Omnibus Edition. All of the pencils would have been just amazing. Anyway, got those, just great. There's quite a few of those. And then you've got loads of ads at the back. Spider-Man t-shirt. And my Steve Ditko as well. Well, this is an absolutely brilliant epic collection. Going Amazing Spider-Man. Of course, I said there's the Omnibus Edition, and that includes the material that was in Volume 1 and Volume 2. and obviously a bit oversized. This one is, of course, conventional comic size.